Okay, we are now going to sketch and grid out the painting. As you'll see in your download section, what we have done is we have given you a photo reference. And in that photo reference, you will see that the photo is broken down into a grid, a 9-part grid. Now, this technique works no matter what size painting you want to do, as long as the aspect ratio is the same. So for example, this reference photo is technically 9 by 12, so that would be considered a 3:4 ratio. And this canvas is 18 by 24, so that is the same ratio. If you have different ratios, it'll skew things just a little bit, but don't worry too much about that. So for this one, we are going from a 9 by 12 to an 18 by 24. So same. If you have a square, um, if you have a square photo, just get a square canvas. Similarly, you just need to make sure the ratio is the same. Now, as you'll see, there are 4 lines, and they divide the canvas into 9 parts. It doesn't matter what your subject matter is, like I said, what we're going to do is we are going to use this to scale up our image. So first, what I'm going to do, I am totally eyeballing this. So I don't want you guys to get too caught up in being exactly correct. One thing I talk about and one thing I teach is that everything we do has our touch on it. This is not machine perfect. It is not, uh, like printed off of a photograph. That's what makes us artists. That's what makes us different. Now, what I am using is I am using a size 10 silver white, and this is, I'm sorry, a size 10 bright brush. This comes in many different brands. I like the silver white brand, and I'm using ultramarine blue. So this is a bright, vivid blue. And I'm using it straight out of the tube to, to sketch out this grid. And so now I have a grid that matches my subject matter. And look, my grid is not even 100% correct, because I like to remind my students it doesn't matter if it's correct. That shows our humanity. That shows our artistic touch. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to look at the photo and use it to draw to help me reference my drawing. So I'm kind of coming in and looking at this first flower, and I see it kind of goes off the edge, and I look down at the edge of the flower, and it comes down. You look at proportions, so it kind of comes down, it's bigger than I thought. It kind of comes down almost to the edge of the canvas. It comes much further down than I initially thought. So to kind of look at the proportions as you're doing this. This flower right here, it's kind of a little oblong shaped. Part of it goes into this quadrant, part of it goes into the center quadrant, and then it kind of goes like this. And we're just trying to get really rough general shapes here. So don't worry about being 100% correct. We are going to paint over a lot of what we are currently putting down. So the mason jar is about right here. And whatever you do with your drawing, just realize that as you go along, if you find that your drawing was not correct, you can go back over it and change it. So nothing is in stone, nothing is perfect. But see, I noticed with the grid that the mason jar was a little bit over. This isn't actually on the center, it's shifted over just a little bit. And these are the things that we notice because we're using the grid. So there's a lot more foliage and flowers right here. If you run out of paint on your brush, just get a little bit more. Like I said, I'm just using straight ultramarine right now. There's some greenery around here, and then you see some kind of yellow flowers. Once we get to that, I will, when I get to that, it'll be very suggestive. I'm not going to highlight it too much. I'm not going to put too much detail into that flower because it's in the background. So in order to get these other two flowers, these other three flowers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look once again at the grid, and the eye, center of this flower is kind of like right here. And I check the proportions. I've got a chunk of this, probably comes up a little bit more in this grid. I want to look at how far it comes over in this grid, almost halfway. Oh, see, when I looked at the center of the flower, I missed the fact that it actually comes into this grid. So as we go, we just edit our painting and don't worry about it because we're going to cover up a lot of this. And we're just doing this to help us get kind of a general idea of where to apply paint. It's this is a guide. This is not the end all be all. We will be editing it as we go. And this sunflower is kind of turned to the side. Got kind of a weird angle. So I'm just gonna sort of suggest him. There's some green stuff. And then this final sunflower that's all the way over here. He's got a lovely profile that's going to be really fun to paint. He's right here. You kind of, and you know, you can then suggest stalks where they are if you want, but I really wouldn't get too much into the drawing past with the flowers here. This is about all you're going to need. My mason jar is a little bit light. It might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but that gives you the mason jar feeling. I'm just going to kind of put a line, I'm going to put a line in where the table is. And the table doesn't have to be 100% level. Like it could be tilted because the table could be in you know, we could be looking at it from a different angle, so don't worry too much about that. And so here is how you grid a painting. I went from a 9 by 12 to just using the exact same proportions. I made this 18 by 24, so I doubled the size of it. And really all you need is just the sketch. This is a super, super rough sketch just to tell us, you know, that this flower doesn't go all the way to here. And this plan helps us as we advance and as we get closer and you know, move through the painting. This helps us know where to apply paint. Make sure at this stage that any paint you use is thin. We don't want super heavy thick paint. We don't want super, super dark black lines that are super thick because we'll be painting over all of this. And so if you have very, very thick paint, it will, if you have very thick paint, what it will do is it will uh, make it a little bit more difficult to apply paint over it. So just keep it loose, keep it easy, keep your paint transparent. And by transparent, just water it down a little bit. Don't have it be as thick as possible. And when in doubt, most of our workshops we have tracing available. And if you don't see one, just give us an email, hello@shelbydillonstudio.com, and we can help you. So when in doubt, just trace. I always advocate for tracing. So thank you guys so much, and we look forward to seeing you in the full workshop. All right, bye.